Thing. Good evening, everybody. Hello, and hope you guys are doing well this Thursday evening. So glad to have you all join me tonight, and hope you had a great day so far. And even if you didn't, you still got time to make it a great evening. So I think that for all of us, we are enjoying this nice weather finally. However, the nice weather comes with a very high pollen count. I don't know about you guys, but I am tired of looking at all this yellow stuff all over my porch, messing up all my decor. But so glad to see the sun out and the temperatures warming up and us getting ready for this spring weather, this beautiful spring weather. And so there's been a lot going on, and I haven't been on a whole lot, but there's been a lot going on, and I wanted to come on and to talk with you all. I'm glad to finally be able to do this. Hello, sweetie, how are you? I'm so glad to be able to do this. I did this on Clubhouse back in January when I first got on Clubhouse. And I don't know, I did it. And of course, a lot of people are on Clubhouse. And so a lot of people that I know on Clubhouse. But I thought, let me do this on Facebook because there are so many people, myself and my guests included, that are going through the journey of grieving. More so, especially lately with COVID and the number of people whose lives have been lost due to COVID. But even in the midst of COVID, other people, people have lost their lives to things other than COVID. And I know if I needed some help or I needed an outlet to talk and to understand what I was going through in the loss of my mom, that may be a good thing to talk about it with other people. And so I wanted to bring this tonight, not just to the Clubhouse, but also to Facebook, and hopefully, be able to interact and share and speak with some other people who may need just to hear our testimonies and where we are, and to get some good information to help. Listen, if you're watching right now and you know someone that would need this information, or this discussion, this topic would be good for, can you go ahead and share, hit the share button for me? Go ahead and hit the share button and share this live right now so that we can get more people on. Um, I know how social media works. I haven't been on in a while, so people don't get the alerts as much because I'm not on as much as often as I used to be. So I need your help to get the word out and share. If you're friends of one of the guests, make sure you share and tag them so that other friends can see them. Tag some of your friends and let them know. And especially if you know someone who is grieving. Y'all, just this week, it's Thursday, and just this week, I've seen, I think maybe 4 or 5 people I know just on Facebook that have lost loved ones, and my heart just goes out. So I know that there are people that need to hear this, and so if you would just go ahead and share, tell your friends, text your friends, tell them get on and share. Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate you for that. And I saw Latoya was on earlier. Hello, Latoya. So you all get on, and if you would just kind of, help us out here and help us, and me and my guests, as we share. This is not an easy thing to do, and so we wanted to make sure that we are here to speak to as many people as we can. All right, so here we're going to go. We're going to introduce our guests, and then we're going to get started because I want to use as much time as possible for our discussion, and then at the end allow you to ask questions. So I'm going to bring my first guest on, and my first guest that I'm going to bring on, I invited her to come in with me the first time because of her professional information and knowledge about this particular subject, with her being a licensed counselor, and also knowing her through church, and knowing that she is a woman who loves the Lord. So I'm going to bring on my first guest. Hello, Misha, all the way from Pittsburgh. And I saw a comment from Nikki a few minutes ago. Thank you, Nikki. I am encouraged. Thank you so much. But let's bring on my first guest, which is Miss Crystal Joyner. Come on in, Crystal.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good. Good to see you again.
I know, definitely. Yeah. It's always good to see familiar faces.
Yes, and thank you for joining me for this topic again. We did this back in January. We're going to do it in February. The dates just didn't work out. So here we are at the end of March, when everybody's busy schedules could finally make it together. And I'm glad that you came back to be with me again and to talk about this topic. You gave such great information, man. I was like, we got to do this again. We got to do it again.
Yeah, great, absolutely. Always happy to do that.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, real quick.
So, I am Crystal Joyner, as Freida mentioned earlier. I'm a licensed professional counselor. And I'm actually stationed in the state of Georgia. So typically all of my clients that I meet with have to be somewhere in the state of Georgia. And I do have different specialties that I focus on, primarily individuals that are experiencing anxiety, depression, adjustment disorder, sometimes some mood disorder. Of course, I focus on grief counseling as well, couples counseling. It just kind of depends on what the need is. Okay. And of course, if it's not my specialty, then I'm happy to refer out.
You know your lane, right?
Yes, I do. I stay in it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to bring in our next guest, who is a very dear friend of mine. I have known her since I was 19 years old, and I'm about to turn 50 next month. So I've known her a very long time. She's a woman with a powerful testimony, and just a solid friend and a solid woman of God. And so I brought her on because she has some real life testimonies of understanding the process of grieving, not just in losing loved ones, but we're going to talk about grieving in marriage and all kinds of other stuff. So I want to bring in my very good friend, the woman of God, who is powerful, Elder Terrace Thomas. Come on, let's bring her in. Hey, I'm gonna have to refrain from calling you T, because that's what I call.
No, please don't. I am T.
I call her T. She always be calling me Fee. So we've known each other for so long. And
hello, everyone.
Hey, Terrace, how are you?
So proud. I'm wonderful. I'm really great. It's been a full day, but I'm absolutely happy to engage in this conversation.
Yeah, and she's has some powerful testimonies, not just one, but several powerful testimonies. And so I'll be happy to share. She is an elder, and you are an associate pastor?
Assistant to pastor.
At Timothy Baptist.
Timothy Baptist.
Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Timothy Baptist in Athens, Georgia. I do serve in the role. I'm honored to serve my senior leader, that's Pastor Tracy L. Bowles. I've been in Athens for a very long time. Won't share the years. It's been a long time. But I background in youth development leadership, nonprofit work. In fact, I'm currently directing a program at a local nonprofit here in Athens, Georgia, which is where I live. Family Connection Communities and Schools. I work with individuals to build capacity and to raise their professional connections in that they live full lives. But I love the Lord. I love his people. But grief, I'm not Jesus, but I'm just like him. I am acquainted with grief.
Acquainted with grief. Yes.
I'm acquainted with it. So really happy to use grief as such a gut wrenching pain, but I'm really happy to be able and thankful to co-pastor Freida for creating a space where we can provide a space for growth for someone in that pit,
Yeah.
because you can live there, but there's also light in that space as well once you're able to navigate the process. So
Yes, and thank
happy
you
to be
so
here.
much for joining me again. We
Thank you
we got to
very
go. We're
much.
going to repeat some of the things that and I'm sure it's going to come out differently, but we're going to repeat some of the things that we already discussed. And so, like I
Mhm.
told Crystal, thank you so much for joining me again, because um, it's. I'm sorry, my sister said
She
hi to
just
you,
said hey to you.
but the picture of my mama popped up next to
I,
it.
I was thinking the same thing.
Help me, Lord.
uh,
It's but Terrence knew my mother also, so it was
yeah, I'm
actually
feeling
my
something too.
parents are her daughter's godparents. Yes,
Yes.
so very familiar, very acquainted with our family. So I'm gonna bring in the last person, our final guest. I asked her to join us, and I've known her. It's funny because I just realized we were talking the other night that she's actually they've been at the church 10 years. It just doesn't even seem like it's been
Wow.
there, that she's been that long at the church. But I know her as an elder at Word and Season Ministries, as well as the rock star buyer specialist on the Mac team. I remember her telling me, she said, I'm gonna get my license, go past it, I'm gonna help you.
Oh
And
wow.
truly she has done that. And I'm gonna bring her on, and I'll talk about her while she's on the screen. But come on, y'all, let's welcome Makina Davis, Elder Makina Davis.
Hello,
um,
everybody.
The Makina.
she
Hey.
said yes. So welcome, Makina. And I brought her in. It said, like I said, she said to me, she said, Co-Pastor, I'm gonna get my license and I'm gonna help you. And truly, she has. It's taken. Last year was the first year I was completely out of production because I had two buyer specialists and a listing specialist that could handle things, and God knew when I was going to need that. And
Mm.
so she came onto the team. She could actually do this by herself. She don't need to be on my team, but she could. But she's getting it done, and so we appreciate her. Her and her husband serve faithfully at Word and Season, and she is known as the church hugger.
Yep.
Um, she giving them long hugs. But and so I brought her in. Your sister saying hey to you.
Hi, Sissy.
Yes, and so she also is walking through this journey of grief, has walked through and is walking through it. And so I invited her on to be another guest with us tonight. Okay, all right. And Makina, want to say anything about yourself and say, greet everybody?
Oh, hello, everybody. This is like really my I don't be on social media like this, y'all, especially live. So this is new for me. But I am, as co-pastor said, I'm a real estate agent part-time if there is such a thing. Not really. But I also work for the Department of Defense. This year will be 30 years of civil service. 30 years, yeah.
Wow.
Good God. But looking to just be a blessing today in sharing this process of grief. It is different because, co-pastor said I'm the church hugger. I'm always the person that's trying to figure out, okay, how can we encourage people? And, just giving somebody a hug sometimes can just make such a big difference. But I think it has gone to a whole nother level of understanding going through grief yourself. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that it really has just like catapulted me to a whole nother place of understanding when ministering to people.
Yes. All right. Well, we're going to get started. Listen, if you're watching with us, remember, post your comments in the feed, and we'll put them up. Daphne is our producer; she will pull those up so we can see them. We will also have a question and answer session at the end. So hold those questions if you have them. You can type them in there; she'll pull them up at the end. But if you think of something, you go ahead and type it in. But if not, when we do the question and answer, you can type your questions in, and we'll see. We'll do our best to answer answer them. And I'm going to start this off. And I told the ladies to just share personal testimonies of grieving. And I think that we all have different areas in which we grieve. Now, I think I said earlier, we talked before. I said, we do definitely, when a loved one passes away, there is this grief. There is, as Tara said, there is a pain that comes with it that's like no other. But grief comes in so many different ways, or because of so many different things. I think that even just for instance, just set aside the death real quick, our country is grieving. Our country is grieving because of the over 500,000 people that have lost their lives. They're grieving because of where we are as a country with hatred, just the bitterness and the anger. We're grieving again at his loss of life. Two mass shootings in the last 2 weeks. Our country is just grieving because of there's so many different things. People grieve because of job loss. Y'all know how many people lost jobs because of COVID, and it took them into an emotional place of grieving because they lost their job. People lost relationships. Marriages ended. All kinds of things happened, and I just think that I think when I think of how I feel with grieving, I feel this way because I lost my mom and I lost both my grandparents. I lost two grandparents and my mother in 17 months. So I know how I feel with losing those people in my life. But I have to look outside of that and say people are grieving because of other things as well. They may not have lost loved ones, but doesn't mean that their grief isn't the same. And so, I think our country I feel, and this is my opinion, I feel is in a place of grieving. And there's just been so much loss on so many different levels over the last year. It's been happening, but it's been compounded to me in the last 15 months. Just, whew, we can't go to church and worship like we want to. We can't interact with one another like we want to. All kinds of stuff. And it just causes that to happen. Anybody else want to share your personal testimony real quick? Give me about 2 or 3 minutes.
Well, it's funny that a lot of times people think the therapist doesn't grieve or isn't human. And I can tell y'all firsthand, as a therapist, we go through all the different life changes that everybody else goes through. And I think that's the unique thing about being able to be a therapist, because at the end of the day, you've experienced it. So sometimes you're able to be in the moment with people. I know I experienced it over the last 15 months, the loss of, relationships. And I did experience 2 deaths in the family. They weren't very close members, but I think the loss of the relationships, people don't realize how much that affects you. You go through those stages of grief. I hope we'll get a chance to talk about those stages later on. Yeah, but it's very similar. So it's not always about a death. But, as co-pastor said earlier, job loss, that's something that I'm definitely seeing in a lot of my clients. Just dealing with changes and not being able to have control over things that are taking place.
Okay. Anybody else? Good. Okay. Well, let's go ahead. You said you want to say something, Tara?
No, I was was going to appreciate Crystal sharing some of the non-traditional spaces as it relates to grief. And in that, I also just want to share that even those spaces, period, in my experience, some of those non-traditional areas of grief or pain just creates open door and triggers for the other or the normal. Being in this pandemic, I'll be very honest, and then I'll silence myself, co-pastor. But being in the pandemic, I'm a real adult. I'm grown with grown children who are gone. To God be the glory. I mean, they're grown and gone, meaning from my residence. And being in this space in the pandemic, which caused us to be alone, isolating ourselves and quarantining, and then with my children being gone. And so everything about family, which is to me is my absolute desire, everything is different the operation of family is just totally different. And so that the space just created another level of pain. And I absolutely remember the really dark days, even during the pandemic, where I was feeling that same gut-wrenching pain of not having my mom who died, or not having my dad or my uncle, and so this space, we have to be very sensitive to it, because this space absolutely connects to triggers from the other types of grief.
Right. And it's hard, when you are in the midst of it, you said it gets dark, it gets really dark, and you try to, as a leader, especially, you try to say, I got to shake this off. And it all hit, in the midst of the pandemic or whatever, you try to shake it off. I remember I felt like trying to get up, I'm going to get up and go. And I felt like every time I would get up, you ever seen the track star and they try to get up, but they just, that, but people have an expectation for you to be there. And I remember having those dark days too, Terrace, that it was just like, I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to get out of bed. Yeah. So I think all of us have sat in that space. And honestly, to be honest, it's hadn't been a year, so it's just a few months. I still fight that. I still fight that desire to do that, and we'll talk about that. I want you to talk about the stage. Is so important, the stages of grief, Crystal, because it's so important that we can all relate and talk about those stages. Because when you talked to me, when you told us those last time, I was like, hey, I've been that one. Yes, I'm doing that one. Ooh, I went back to that one.
And then you go back and forth.
Like a ping pong ball in the midst of those stages. And so, Makina, do you have anything before we start that?
I just wanted to say, because I did experience 2 deaths. First, it was my mom, and it was really, it was hard because, I had not up until that point lost anybody that close to me. And so for the first experience to be that close to actually be my mom, I don't even think I really knew how I was supposed to grieve. And so then being in a leadership position too is kind of like, okay, you struggle between this, okay, what you have told other people as a leader to try to encourage them during times of grief. Now you're on the other side, and it's like, okay, now I have to try to walk this out. How do I do that? And you kind of go back and forth, but it's such a deep place of hurt. There were times when I knew, grieving is, and it's not like you don't know that grieving is a healthy process, because I've been in places and I've heard that, but there were some times when the grief and the pain was so much, I was almost afraid to grieve, because I was scared that I was probably going to go to a place and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get back up.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, ooh, I can't just grieve like that, because what if I can't bounce back? And so that was very hard, because I don't think I really was allowing myself to grieve, because I was afraid. I was afraid to grieve because that's how much it hurt.
Yeah. Somebody said many parents of children with disabilities deal with chronic grief, especially if their child is dealing with complex medical conditions. That's another type of grief.
Yes.
That I'm not familiar with, but we all, when we understand it, have different spaces and different types and different areas in which we do grieve. And so that's one of the reasons why I thought this, because I noticed I titled the journey of grieving. And I said ING, not just grief, because it's ongoing. And not to the place, because one of the things we'll talk about in a minute is healthy and unhealthy grieving. Is there such a thing? Is there such a thing as healthy grieving or unhealthy grieving? We'll let Crystal talk to us about that. But, go ahead.
I just wanted to piggyback on what Makina was talking about, the fear of actually feeling those feelings and emotions and not knowing whether or not you'll be able to pull yourself out of it. And, a lot of times you can't. And so, you know, that's why we have medical professionals that sometimes you may have to go on medication. You know, it's not a bad thing. I know in the Black community, you know, we frown on medication, but sometimes you don't even realize how bad off you are until you start taking medicine. And that's just the truth. You know, it's
Yeah,
not
then
a
you find
life.
out that's not how I'm really supposed to be acting. Yeah, until I took the medicine. Medicine made me act right. I'm like, oh, I'm really supposed to be acting.
Well, you know, it'll balance out some levels that's imbalanced right now. And sometimes you're fighting it physically, but you can't pull yourself out. And so it's not a lifetime commitment when you may be on, you know, depression medication or medication for anxiety, because if it's taking over your life, you got to do something about it, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I do feel like McKenna in some areas too that even for me, just to worship hurt. I didn't want to do it.
I
I
couldn't.
didn't.
I couldn't because I
I
mean,
didn't want to.
it was kind of like them same songs that I used to put in to worship God. I would begin to listen to the words, and I'd be like, no, because I'm not believing that right now. It's so crazy, y'all, because we're Christians, and we talk about, okay, we've accepted salvation, we've accepted Jesus. When we die, we going to heaven, and that's something to rejoice about. Okay, I don't want to rejoice. Like,
That's how I felt.
that's not
I
bringing me
don't know if I
comfort.
believe that no more.
No,
But you're still human.
it
You
wasn't
know,
bringing me comfort in that moment. It just was not. I just wanted my mama. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want her.
Exactly.
Like, I want her to be right here.
Mhm.
So yeah,
I wanted the other side of that, all the power of the raising from the dead and the
yes,
bringing. I wanted that side of it. I don't want that. But also worshiping for me opened me up
Yeah.
to where McKenna said, I felt like if I go there, I ain't no coming back. Because if I open
Exactly.
myself up, I'm too raw. I'm too, whatever.
Mhm.
And I remember because we were in the, this is the thing with us, we were in the midst of the pandemic. And when my mom died, I took one Sunday off and I was right back in there. I would sit there and cry through the whole worship. I would cry the whole time. And then I was grieving because that. Then I look around and there's nobody in the church. And it was just like, what in the world? And I would just boo-hoo, because I was just struggling in my faith. I just be
yeah,
honest.
you do.
I
yeah,
was
but that's
struggling in my
human.
faith. Yeah, I was struggling, like Makina said.
Especially, co-pastor, if there was a moment before the death when you were praying and you were believing God and you were just like, God's gonna turn this around, and that's just like, okay, and then it didn't.
Yeah, we were on the phone. My sisters and I were on the phone in the parking lot. My mom was in the emergency room because COVID. We could not be in the room. That's another reason. Another part of my grief I'm dealing with is that I could not be in the room with my mother.
Yeah.
She passed. Had to watch her pass away on Google Duo.
That's a lot.
That's
So
a
I
lot.
was in the room,
Yeah, I was not. And
and
so that I wanted to be. I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
But my sisters and I prayed in the parking lot when she was in the emergency room. I remember we prayed for about 2 hours on the phone, just praying. And the morning that she passed, we just got off the phone 20 minutes later, praying, just believe in God, believe God. Minutes later, my dad calls us, whatever. But I struggle with all of that, like stupid pandemic,
Right.
No, my mama couldn't have us there with her, to help her, it just all those things. So yeah, I was mad, and that's what I know. That's one we'll talk about. I don't want to jump too. I don't want to jump too far ahead, Crystal, with these stages.
And so, when my mom passed, it was before the pandemic. And so I was there in the room, but the struggle that I had afterwards with being there and being so close and like literally like watching her take her last breath. I think the part that I battled with the most after that was because I'm such a visual person that was my last memory.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I want to remember her different.
Bless you, Sister McKenna. Bless you.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get those images
Right.
out and remember her beautiful, remember her lively and active. But the images are the hardest part for me to deal with because I can't get those out of my mind.
Yeah.
My sisters and I talk about that all the time, how we could be watching a television show and they'll show somebody with a candler in their nose and I turn it off.
Yeah.
I can't watch it. I can't.
Mhm.
I can't watch it, and, I just can't. And my husband sitting there and I just sit there with tears running down my face because I don't want to see somebody with a candler in their nose, So those things are burned in your memory, in your heart, in your spirit, and that's a part of the journey. Crystal, let's talk about these stages because
Yeah, because I'm
these are
listening
all
to
covered in
Makina.
these stages.
It's so much. It's
I
so much.
know. I know. I
I was
know.
listening to Makina talk, and y'all, it's 16 different types of grief. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but that I'm hoping that people that are listening and viewing, they may be able to identify with some of these things, put a name to it, so that you know that you're human. When you refuse to grieve, it's only going to backfire later. Whether it's an outburst, whether you turn into drugs and alcohol, whether you're turning to just things that are self-destructive, it's gonna come out. So you have to allow yourself to feel. But when we did the clubhouse, we talked about there are 5 different stages of grief, and sometimes there could be 7. And I know, Terrence, you talked about divorce during the clubhouse, and I hope you get a chance to share. But it's very similar. Every situation is very similar. And so in the 5 stages, y'all, the first one is denial. And that's when you've got your defenses up and you're in a total state of shock. Like this just isn't happening. You're trying to find meaning to life. Like, how did this happen? How did it happen? The second stage is anger. And so both of y'all, co-pastor, Makina, y'all talked about, and even Terrace, and even myself, you get mad, and it's just like sometimes you're mad at God, you're mad at the person that died. Like, how could you leave us like this or right now? I can't even see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's deal with that first one. Let's deal with that first one, that denial and what that looks like. And while we've got to be able to work in that and through that process, that one of denial. Wanda said, I lost my sister in January and we were praying and fasting as family, playing healing music, and now I can't listen to healing music. Yeah, it's a part of the grief. I learned the hard way. In grief after my divorce, I found myself crying uncontrollably for 3 days out of nowhere. Yeah. People are understanding. Let's talk about denial, Crystal. What does the denial look like in the grief process?
It kind of looks different depending upon the person. As stated earlier, it's not happening. I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to wake up in the morning. If you're thinking about death and that person is going to be there, I'm going to be able to call them, on Mother's Day, Father's Day, or whatever it may be, or even if it's divorce or relationship, especially, memories. People create memories. And so you're in denial that memories will no longer be created with that individual or that situation, whatever it is that you may be grieving at that moment. Terrace, can you tell me, when you were going through your divorce, what did denial look like for you?
Okay, let me clarify. I'm married on paper.
Okay.
I'm very much divorced as it relates to the union. I just want a great clarity. In fact, if you will allow me to put context around this, let me do so now. I married my husband both of us were 19 and were married 29 years prior to his departure. So we were 19 and were married together 29 years. So he was indeed family. Of course, got a daughter and a son. And to date, we're still married. He's military. That may help you guys understand context. He retired military. So we're still very much friends because, again, 19 when we married, and we've been on paper for 8 years. So I've been full divorced, if you will, those years. But I don't want to be just a joke about it. I don't want to state that because as I shared earlier about that context of family and connection, when my husband left, it changed everything in me. I experienced trauma as a young child. My mother was murdered at 3. And my daddy did not raise me. I was raised by my aunt and her family. Really grateful for that. But I did not have my mom. And then I didn't have my dad. Once I got reconnected with my dad, he died 2 years later. And so it's just been a cycle of grief, different kinds. And so when it comes to the disillusion of a relationship, I guess, or the dissolvement of the relationship, almost 29 year marriage, it hurt worse, if I could be honest, instantly, and worse than the grief I felt with my mom being gone all those years. Because, as you guys have already said, the memories, the hopes. Of course, we've had a tumultuous marriage, a lot of praying, a lot of believing God, a lot of fasting. Then for the relationship to end, I remember when my husband left. I absolutely remember wondering if I was going to be okay. I too am public. I'm assistant to pastor in ministry. I've been preaching a very long time, and I'm a lover of people, and I carry joy. And so always willing to give it to others. And I remember immediately being concerned as to whether or not I was going to be okay mentally. Because I was void of joy. I can't even express, even now to talk about it, I get emotional because I can't even express how extremely empty I felt. And so when you hear, or I'm sure we've read where divorces are as horrible or as painful as death. It is indeed, because it's the death of dreams. The death of hope. Like now, every day I wake up and I'm perfectly fine. I praise God for restoration. However, spring break is about to come. And just today, I walked in my office and I told the Lord, Father, I thank you that you are my husband. You're my first husband. Because my family would go on spring break vacations. Well, that's no longer a situation for me. But I am still working hard every day, and I want to go on vacation with the family and that. And so it's a consistent thing. So you're very right. Denial, I won't say I struggled in the area of denial. It was a disbelief. It was that. I can't believe this is happening to me.
That's a good, that's a good word.
Oh, I could remember, and if you guys would allow me to be candid, prior to me letting Jesus be in full control of my life, I was a hood warrior. I was a street fighter. I was an absolute issue. And thank God for the Holy Spirit. He curtailed all of that. But I remember the day they left, there was a fight that came out of me. You guys would have said that she can't be saved. She cannot be a preacher or a leader, because the stripping away that happens with grief, it cuts you, it guts you, and leaves you so indeed raw. And I can remember a part of my struggle was having to tone my fight, having to stay Holy Ghost filled. That was a lot of my tears and warring, fighting with God, a whole lot of, I jokingly say, I wrestle my sheets. I used to wrestle my comforters every morning, just like a 2-year-old throwing a tantrum, not wanting to get out of bed. Because I too did not want to get up out of my bed. I did not want to do what the day required. I just wanted to slide away. I hate to say it, but there were days I just wanted to slide away and not be here. Not be here.
Because you have to deal with what you were going with. If you are here, you got to deal with it, because life goes on.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah, but I understood the severity when I would allow myself to cry. And I think we all understand this because we understand church context and brokenness in others that we serve. I can remember weeping, and that my cry sounded extremely deep. I heard it myself. I knew at that point I'm really not okay, and I've got to get some help. And Crystal, I love you. I appreciate your ministry as a therapist. I've been in therapy with, I love my therapist. He is my friend today. I went in and it was intense therapy 2 times a week. And then every week, every Thursday, and it got to some days when he would cut me more. You know, I was also accountable in my therapy. So I made myself accountable to my pastor, who's my covering and my mentor. And I was very honest saying to him, and thank God for safety. I want to put that out there too. When people are grieving, we absolutely have to give them a safe space to grieve, which means when you feel, when they want to fight, not that you give them a fight, but you give them a teddy bear to punch or something.
Right.
But as opposed to saying, get back in place. No, get that fight out of you, you know, get it out. And I just told my pastor last week, I thank him for it every now and again. He gave me the safe space to be in therapy. He saw me when I was broken, because I've shared this with co-pastor Freida. I can remember one Thursday I left therapy, and, you know, church is on Sunday. I left therapy and I was so broken. And I went to be accountable. I was sharing, and I said to him, Pastor, today was a rough day. And I'm still broken. I was crying. I was like, I'm still broken. And I need you to know this, because if somebody tripped me wrong on Sunday, I may be back in your office come Monday morning. But my pastor he carries the Spirit of Christ and that consolation. So he said to me, Elder, I see you. And you're gonna be okay. But what he also said was the hardest thing, and that was stay right there. He said, do not stay right there in your worst place, your deepest place. Get everything God's teaching you there. And I'm so glad he did. I'm so glad he did, because I got everything. I still feel it. I understand, so I'm acquainted. I'm able to help others. But I also know that my healing is also extremely authentic. And that's why I think we should understand that space so that people can fully get through it. And today, you know, that's why I'm happy to say my husband, and I still say husband on paper. Well, I'm glad that we're friends. But I know I've matured and I've grown. So we won't ever have what we had. But I'm also not in my carnality either.
I think that one of the things I hear you say, that word disbelief is definitely true. Now is disbelief. But the other part is letting someone know you're not okay. I think so many times I gotta
mask it.
Right.
Yeah.
And people
I gotta mask it.
just think you're okay because you say this about women anyway. Women, we good about making stuff look like easy because we just do 15 things and it look easy. Like, what you time for?
Right.
What you want time? You don't even know the stuff I just did. But
exactly. We make it look good. We do.
Yeah, we make it look easy. We make it look good. And I think I learned this. I'm learning this. It's okay to not be okay.
Absolutely.
But I have to vocalize that I'm not okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's hard for me.
Yes.
That's control. You know that, right?
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Crystal. I was not going to say, but thank you.
I'll take the hit for it later.
I know. Go ahead, Makina. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just saying that I was always being the person that people come to.
Yep.
Never like, you know, and people and that's part of it. Everybody said, "Oh, you so strong," you know, and that's part of the reason why, you know, my mom specifically said, "I want you to come. I want you to be here. I'm okay as long as you are here because you are strong." And I'm thinking like, no, I'm not. Yes. You know, and then to face it with my mom and then a year later turn around and have to go through the same exact thing with my baby brother. And he was like, "You have to come." And I was like, I cannot do this again. But I did. And, you know, and I went because he asked me, you know, and he had been calling me and he just kept saying, you know, something happens to me. Will you come? Will you be here? You know, and I didn't want to let him down. You know, and I wanted to be there. And so all the times the palliative nurse is coming in, and it was a little bit different between my mom and my brother because my mom was just kind of in and out because they had her so heavily sedated because of the pain. My brother was awake. And so we were engaged and talking, and so that's another thing that I have all of this remorse because the whole time I was there with my mom, I couldn't talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
Then she was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so, all of this, I wish I could have said this. And then like, even if she couldn't talk back to you, why didn't you just talk to her? Why didn't you just, you going in your mind with all this coulda, woulda, shoulda, And so then when I was there with my brother, and he was alert, and awake, and the palatal nurse is coming in and they're just telling him, there ain't nothing we can do. And he would be looking me straight in the face. Are you okay? You okay? And I'm having to maintain my composure hearing what this lady is saying to him because I know how he's taking it, and I'm trying to help him because he would panic and then he couldn't breathe and the anxiety. So I was like, okay, I have to stay calm because if I stay calm, it was like he was taking his lead from me. And so I'm like, okay, yes, I'm okay. You okay? And he's like, okay, you okay? I'm okay. And so the whole time, I'm just there and on the inside, I wanted to scream like, I cannot believe that I am going through this again. And so it's just crazy trying to process that. And so even after that, still having to go, and I'm saying having to, I probably didn't have to, but I felt like I had to because, after my brother, COVID hit. Like, so we came back, everything was shutting down. I'm driving back and we go straight into isolation, like quarantine, stuck in the house. And so people were grieving and, I'm grieving. And so then when we come out, people got these stories. And then of course I work on the base and, I'm a supervisor. And so I'm there and people want to come in and talk to me. And I'm looking like the last thing that I really want to do right now is talk to anybody about grief. But it just seemed like they just kept coming. And I kept saying, God, like, what is this? And so I would just be there or just be present or just, I learned that you don't have to say anything. Sometimes it's just being present. And we're so quick to think that we have to say something to somebody. And you don't. Trust me, you don't. A lot of times you're going to say the wrong thing or whatever you say, it ain't going to matter no way. And so you just be present. And so I learned to be present with other people that were grieving, but it just looked like, what is this? The grief ministry? Like, God, like for real, I don't want to talk to nobody else, but it's like every now and then, even when I'm not planning it, God allows people to come and I end up ministering to them. And I'm still like, well, I guess part of it is healing for me too. In talking with them, maybe this is my opportunity to get some of these things out while I'm sharing and ministering to other people. But it's not easy to tell somebody, hey, I'm hurting or I'm grieving, but I started to because I did. I got counseling. And that was the advice that, hey, you cannot do all
Can't do it.
Right.
Listen, and because you're kind of pouring out from an empty. I remember trying somebody right after 2 weeks after my mom died. I was like, I need to set up an appointment with you, and I just said I can't do it. I'm
That's
sorry.
wonderful.
I don't have anything to give you. Like I know I'm co-pastor. I know you got something going on, but I'm gonna have to refer you to somebody else because I can't do it. And I think it put me in that place where I finally was okay with vocalizing. I, like Crystal said, that control issue. I need to be there. I always had to say something. I just, and sometimes, honestly, I understand, like we said, people would send me. I just had to be very honest, and I think you just have to look at me weird. You have to look at me any kind of way because I can't even sit here. Let me tell y'all, 2 weeks ago, my coworker, one of my coworkers called, and she works for me. One of my employees called. My brother's in the hospital, and he's COVID. And she said, "I want you to pray for my brother." I said, "Okay." And I didn't know that she was in the room with her brother. She put her brother, turned the camera around.
Oh, that's trigger. That has to be trigger.
Trigger.
Yes.
Candler in the nose, all of this stuff. Just like my And I told her, I said, I will pray for a few minutes. And I prayed for a few minutes. I said what I had to say, and I got off the phone. I texted her. I said, I can't.
Yeah.
I prayed and I said, I can't look at him and do that. Like, I had to be very honest. And she said, thank you for telling me that, because I could have just I'm gonna press through it. Yeah, but it wouldn't have come from a place of, because I'm on the phone boo-hoo crying and just like, okay, let me get myself together. So I prayed for just a few seconds. I got off the phone. I texted her and said, I couldn't do it, but here's a prayer, after I got myself together. But all I'm saying is I had to learn that. Before I would just like, Holy Ghost, just help me. Holy Ghost is like, sit your tail down somewhere. You ain't home.
And you know what, co-pastor, and I know Krista's going to give us, perspectives, the professional perspectives. But I think what you just said, as you as well, Makina, I think is really noteworthy. And for us as it relates to the church and the kingdom, that we understand those kinds of things, because we walk into that space where we're like, we're going to be okay, and we move on. And as ministers of God's people, you're not healthy. And then, but you moved on and you're ministering to people, which means you're sending you're transferring unhealthiness onto them.
Right.
I make it really clear. Jesus was the only one who saved people while he was dying. When we deal with grief,
that's good, Terrence.
When we deal with grief, when you're in that space called grief, to be very honest, we are dying too. Grief is something where you're experiencing death too. And unlike Christ, we want to kill people when we die. We're like, if you don't get out of my space, or you don't understand me, but Jesus was the one who died to save the people. In this space of grief, it's not appropriate for you to expect me to be Jesus as I'm dealing with it. He was both God and man. He was the Word made flesh. Yes, we're to grow to be like him, but the truth of the matter, we are not him in that space. We've got to understand that we're human. We're wrapped in skin suits. And I say it all the time, as long as we live in these skin suits, he teaches us how to manage this stuff called flesh. But we're still wrapped in it. And so I'm really proud of you, co-pastor Freida, for one, being very honest enough, and not just being the minister and praying through that, but to be very honest to say, I can't. And that is again why I had to say, I do know that I have to be in this space called church, because I was so empty. I know had I not had the family of Christ, and be it given when I'm in my flesh, I can go way back. I needed that. But I know I wept bitterly on the way to church, and I cried all the way home for the rest of the day. And so I'm just telling you, I put on a face for an hour, but I was covered and protected. I can remember my pastor say, just sit right here. You gonna be okay. Hear what God's saying. But I had to turn off some of the other stuff. And I just want to state that Jesus died. He saved people while dying. But we're not able to do that. And it's inappropriate for us to have people think we can, as well as it is for them to expect us to.
Right.
But when you say that, Sister Terrace, and I hear you, because to me, there's a difference. Because as a minister, I don't think that everybody expects you to save them. But I think that when people know that you have experienced loss, that you can relate. And so there's a difference in ministering and trying to tell somebody how they should grieve, which is not what I'm saying. Because you can still minister to people who have lost because you can relate. And that's what I mean by saying being present.
Absolutely.
There's no
I agree.
Change, but you can be present.
But I do what I'm sorry.
Yes,
I absolutely agree with you.
Yes, even in being present, that's me. Because there's something about a person knowing that you know how I feel, even though there's no words being exchanged right now. It's something about, because you feel so alone. You feel so alone when you are.
I fully agree. And I'm going to put a silencer on my mic over here and let other people talk. I absolutely agree with you. My commentary was regarding the raw and the pain of the grief. Those stages. There are certain stages where, honestly, Makina, we shouldn't be doing any of it.
And we
should only be, receiving that. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. So, absolutely.
We're not at the same stage. And so I just want to clarify that, because even as leaders, that I mean, I think when my mom passed, that was the first year. No, I don't. I was like you, co-pastor. I went in a place to try to minister to
That's what I
anybody.
mean.
But through trying to go through the whole grieving process, because I did have a counselor, and then there was some guidance in how to do it. I didn't want to stay where I was. I did not. I
Absolutely.
wanted, because I understood the giftings that were in me. And so because the second time around, we were in COVID, there were no other outside influences. So you had the time to spend with God. You had the time to deal with your grief. You had the time to literally get in the prayer and take these things to God, so that coming out, because that was my prayer. You know, when we talk about triggers, you know how you say it's the cannula, when you see it, that it's a trigger. There are things that I didn't even know were going to be triggers. And so, like a ringtone on a cell phone that my mom had on her phone, when I heard it, that, oh my God, where it took me mentally. But because I read a lot about how the mind works, I think I shared this in my life group last week, that the first time I tried to go back into a hospital after my brother passed, I was sent there because, you know, there was somebody there, and this was like when they, right before COVID, when they shut everything down here, and it was a friend and her husband was there, and I went by. I didn't know how I was going to feel. So I went in, said a quick prayer with them, you know, tried to make the husband laugh a little bit, but I did not like the fact that when I went in, there was this overwhelming sense that you can't be in a hospital. You can't be in a hospital. And I told myself, the devil is a lie. Because I'm not going to let the fact that I'm in a hospital be attached to this memory in such a way. What I began to do was try to think about it a different way, you know? And so I said, God, I have to be able to take control of this. Not that I probably will never feel sad when I go into a hospital, that those thoughts will come. It's just that I cannot let those thoughts consume me. And that's not just with grief, that's with life. It's how you allow different thoughts to affect you. And so I was like, God, we about to transform this. I don't know how long it's going to take. It began a journey, you know, with how I looked at it, you know? And so, I mean, it wasn't the hospital. It was where the hospital memory was taking me. And I just chose to not let that be. Because if that's the case, I'll never step foot in another hospital again. And even if the hospitals open up, if I tell myself, this is the memory that I'm going to attach to the hospital, I'll never go in the hospital again. But I didn't want that.
I think everybody wants it. That's why I talk about the journey of grieving, because everybody's on different road markers in the journey. And we were talking about, you know, I think the context which I was talking about was like, you know, when it's okay to not be okay, and just to let someone know, you know, because you have to vocalize that and be okay, and not trying to control it when you know you're not. And I think Crystal, you can you know, talk about that part, you know, being because you got to say I'm not okay. Because here's the thing, I love that when the scripture says that it's in my weakness that his strength is made great. But I have to first admit that I can't do it. I got to first say I'm not there. I'm not there yet. And I think that's when his grace comes along and strengthens you in those areas. And everybody, you know, different stages of their grief. We got to denial, and we got to anger. We ain't got to the rest of them yet.
Yeah. You know, when you all were talking about just accepting the fact that you're not okay, it's okay. I don't know why, as believers, and I've battled with this myself, I feel like I have to be in control at all times. And so until we're willing to yield that over, you know, then the healing starts to take place. Because, you know, Terrace, you talked about it, McKenna, co-pastor, you talked about it. Whether you're going to get therapy or whether you're talking to ministers, they're allowing you to grieve intentionally. You know, Terrace, you talked about your pastor saying, sit here, cry it out. You know, you and McKenna, here's a safe space for these people to be able to be human, because we don't allow people to be human. And when we don't allow that, that's when people lose control, you know, and bad things happen. But
Exactly.
that's part of the grieving process, is being intentional. Whether it's a day that, okay, you know what, I'm hurting and I'm gonna hurt. you know, you know
I
that.
That's
love
one of the
that.
best things Bishop Dudley told me. Feel
Yeah.
what you feel.
Yeah.
Hey,
Feel what you feel.
love it.
Right.
Today you
And I
feel
like
angry.
what Terrence's
Be
pastor
angry.
told her, I see you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like
But
that
but
to
but
me
Terrence,
is
my
so
thing is though,
powerful.
it's powerful because Terrence went to him and said, "This is how I'm feeling."
Yeah.
And see, a lot
Exactly.
of times you got to be able to vocalize, "I
Mm-hmm.
feel like this.
Yes.
This is how I
Exactly.
feel."
Exactly.
Yeah, and you got to
Mm-hmm.
be able to, with my kids, with your husband, with whoever it is,
Yeah.
Yes.
say, because we talk about that Superwoman cape again. We wear it so everybody think you fine.
Yep.
Exactly.
Say, like Terrence went in and said, "I just left therapy. I'm not okay."
I'm
Mhm.
not.
But if you in church that say to her pastor,
Mhm.
it ain't okay. You know what I'm saying? I think it's
Mm-hmm.
just important to know that you gotta vocalize it. And that's been hard for me. And I'm saying that for me to say
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
okay
Yeah.
today,
Mm-hmm.
But
or
see,
I'm
when
still
yeah,
not where I need to be in
right,
this process.
right,
I need more time.
right.
That has not been an easy thing for me. Go ahead, Crystal. I'm
Well,
sorry.
and that's okay, because we can't put time limits on grief. Everybody grieves
Yes.
differently. Sometimes people could experience the exact same loss, and somebody else may get over it in 6 months. Another person may be still dealing with it two
Mm-hmm.
2 to 5 years from now.
So
Everybody deals with it differently. When we allow ourselves to grieve intentionally, y'all, it's gonna send messages to our brain that we are experiencing pain and danger. And so when you're
yeah.
trying to counteract that pain and danger, you're going to explode.
Wow.
And
That's
then you're going to be
really,
trying to
really
figure out
good.
where is this coming from? Whether you're having a nervous breakdown, whether you're experiencing a stroke, a heart
Yes.
attack. Because I'm telling you, you feel that. It's like your body is in
Yes.
danger and you're fighting for your life.
Fighting for your life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that, Crystal. That is so key. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
you giving me something there. That's really key, because we don't. That's what I meant about we've got to do better in our congregations and in our churches,
Exactly.
because we're killing people
Yeah.
all
No,
in the name of love.
we
You
know
know,
what
we
I'm glad you
we
said
really
that.
we all in the name of love and just not doing it. I mean, but that is really key. The effect on the body. It's like heart attack. Stroke, and as I shared, and Makina and co-pastor Freida said too. I can remember it was just
Yeah.
like it can't be happening, and part of that was what's going on with my body, what's going
Right.
on in my psyche, what's going on in my heart.
Mhm.
That whole we quit. And I praise God that the word says He's near the broken heart,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
and we preach that, we share that. But grief does indeed break your heart, and
It
so
does.
I can remember not just being broken and hearted, but I can remember my heart aching
Yes.
like a natural ache.
Natural
It
Mhm.
feeling.
was a ache to even, it was beating, but it
Mhm.
was hurting as
Mhm.
it were to be.
Mhm.
I so remember that. So you just said a lot, and I think that's key for us to take with us. It affects your absolute body.
Yeah.
Not I too, and then when we're honest with our families, and they cover us and provide us with connection. My daughter, I had her, but I thank her now, because during that stage, I can remember it was like she was my mom, because I was so very broken. She shared with me the other day. She said, "Ma, that was trauma for me too. I remember." She told me, I had to tell my brother not long ago, he has not seen you at your weakest. I remember seeing you break. That's what she said. She said, "I
Wow.
remember." And then she told me we were flying. We had went out of town for a flight the other weekend, and she said, "Ma," and so I like seeing how you laughing now. She said, "I could remember being scared because of how broken you were, because I wasn't used to seeing you that way." She said, "But I like seeing the way you're laughing now, and the fact that you and my dad are good friends." But she was like, she mentioned how it scared her, but she saw me break. Just like I didn't know what was going on with me, I knew something was really off. The people we love and who engage with us, they know it too. And so
They
we
know.
have to be honest in those spaces. So thank you, Krista.
Yeah.
When I come through your way, I'm gonna have to come sit in your chair.
I'm just gonna listen.
So let's go through the other three real quick. I know you talked about denial, anger, and we can talk about anger all day because
Yeah.
Anger comes out in so many different ways.
So the other one was bargaining. You know, you'll have those if only statements. If only I was there. You know, if only I had, if it's a divorce or if it's a relationship, you know, if only I had done this more, you know, and you just start bargaining in your head like you're reasoning with God.
This is so good.
Yeah, like if we had to just maybe, you know, for us, if we had to just, you know, not done the chemo and the radiation. I mean, she had it for 5 years. What if we just hadn't, you know, it's just all these things that, you know, and when you were talking about that, I was like, I didn't even know there was a stage. I just thought it was a thought process. You know, I didn't realize
this is so very
stage
good.
of grieving. What's another one that you talked about?
So, and then depression. Terrence, you talked about it. Makina, you know, we all have co-pastor. Those are those extreme cases where the individual, you know, you're feeling like death run over yourself. When you talk about not being able to the fear of being able to not pull yourself out of it. You know, some people, when they're grieving, depression sets in. I mean, I know people that can't get out the bed, literally. And it's like, why can't you get out the bed? No, because it's something that's just holding them. You know, and so a lot of times people get severely depressed when they're going through these stages. Now, the last one, of course, is acceptance. And so what I tell people is that sometimes you'll be in and out of all these different stages, and that's perfectly normal. You know, like I said, it's no time limit. You know, Makina, you talked about triggers, and then anniversaries. Terrence, you talked something you said about anniversaries, planning for those events. You know, making sure you're around family and friends and being intentional when those times come up, you know, co-pastor, when your mom's birthday, you know, those, because it's still fresh and it may always be.
Yeah, it's what I call, well, this year, it's called the first.
The first of everything.
The first, the first have been hard. You know, she died July 11th. Her birthday was August 27th. Christmas, all the firsts have been, you know, the hard parts for our family. So I think I've been people when I, you know, send them messages about, you know, when their family has passed away or something like that. If I send them a text, especially now that I understand, you know, the first, I'll say, you know, be mindful of the first. You know, you got it, because I didn't understand how the first would affect me. I didn't know what it was going to happen and how it would affect our family. And I would say it's just me, but I'm talking about, you know, the family, not just me, because, you know, I know she was my mom, but she was my sister's moms and my dad's wife and, you know, my aunt's sisters. And so I see my cousins posting stuff because they were close with her and my aunties and stuff like that. So, you know, I look at it not just is my pain, but family is dealing with all those, and we bounce all over the place. You know, I may be in denial this week. Next week, my daddy is in denial. And he's in. My sister's over here bargaining, and another sister's angry. We just all, and we call each other like, "This is how I feel today. This is how I feel today." No, girl, this is how I feel.
That's good, but that's so good. That's so good, because you're not sitting back saying, "Why are you still in denial?" Oh, you know, mama's gone. You know, we do that to each other. You know, we do that to each other. And we only, you know, we're only causing more hurt and pain. And then people start masking stuff. And then when
going someplace else to deal going someplace to deal with your pain, and you wonder, I thought they were saved, and I thought for sure they were preaching the gospel, and what is that a drink? I just pulled in here Longhorn. Does she have is that Elder T over there with a drink?
That's my business.
No. I'm just saying, you know, but I'm just using that. That's a scenario, a hypothetical. That's not going to be the case, but that's exactly what can happen. And that too, Crystal, I'm sure you could speak to that. Like even people now with mental incapacities, you know, people who have mental issues or what have you, mental health issues, and we're quick to say, "Oh, they're crazy," or that, you know, he lost his mind. Well, we don't know what he went through to lose his mind.
Right. Nobody talks about those things
exactly
that up to it. But
Thank you. There was something there. I could have been him. So now I reach out. I pray when I see him at the corner of the traffic lights asking for money. Now, if the Holy Ghost say give them $5, I will. But I don't try. I do struggle in that control area. I'm like, Lord, instead of giving them money, can't I just go to McDonald's and get them the chicken? Can I just get them McDonald's and fries? You know. But what I'm trying to say is, we don't know what started that addiction or that need to fix that pain, lessen that pain. We don't know, and that's why the church, we've got to do better with creating safe spaces for people to fully grieve, so that they don't get there. Because once they get there, then we're tripping. We don't have homeless. We don't have showers in our churches. They let them bathe. Then they come to take a shower. You like, ooh, they got the heebie-jeebies, and you, I don't know. But when they come down your altar, you want to pray for them. You want them to join your church. Well, can they join health first? Can we bring them to that kind of thing? But this is so good.
And you know what, people don't understand that when people are not allowed to grieve, not allowed to be human, you know, Terrence, you talked about it. That's when the drugs and alcohol comes into place. And so, you know, you may look up and somebody's drinking, you know, one drink. Okay, 2 drinks. Or then there's other things that you start engaging in. I mean, you know, it's not always drugs and alcohol, but that is a way of not feeling.
I was going to say
or undereating.
Food.
Or
undereating. So they pour themselves into work, whatever it is.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell y'all one thing. Let me tell y'all a secret of what's been my thing. I had to kind of slow down with, and I'm still having some issues. I soothe myself, and I know it with. I've been decorating my house and changing things. I'm on Amazon all the time. I want that. I click and I buy it. I send a lot of it back, but
you're binging, purchasing.
In a minute.
It's like, why did I buy all this stuff?
I understand.
Then at the end of the day, when all these packages come, it's like, why did I buy all that stuff? You got to start paying attention to your behavior.
Yeah,
I mean, it takes a minute, y'all. It does. I mean, I've got training, but I am not perfect. You know, I can remember days every Friday. I mean, that's when Ross was a good.
When it was, I like the way you corrected that. When it was,
when Ross you could go in there and get some real designer stuff for the Lolo. You know, every Friday, Ross buying bread. You know, why am I doing this? You know, it's okay to do that, but you know, in moderation, and what's causing me to do this, what's going on in my life. You got to pay attention to what's going on.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Guys, it's after 9. It's Lord, it's after 9. I need to get y'all.
This what happened last time.
It is what happened last time.
It's so good though.
A chance to talk about everything because it's just so much. And I think the thing we didn't even get to talk about the types of grieving because it's just we talked about the stages, we didn't talk about the types, and that's crazy. And it's something we all need to watch in our lives and be conscious of and work through the process. And I love the fact that Crystal said you may go bounce back and forth between different ones all the time. When you think you're here, you go back. And give other people space to grieve in the space that they're in and whatever phase of grieving that they're in. Give them that. And then I think the other thing is for those who are grieving that we need to vocalize where we are in our grief process and don't expect for people to just know where we are. You know, like if I'm in an anger state, like I said, me and my sisters, we do it. It's easier for us, you know, to do it because we're sisters. And I'll just be like, today, I'm just mad. Today, my sister like, today, I'm just like, why mom didn't do, you know, we all just have our own stages, but we vocalize where we are.
And I think that's important, co-pastor, even with your spouses, because I was just sharing with somebody because especially with men, they want to fix. And so you're right, because there's sometimes, you know, I have to tell them like, okay, you can't do nothing right now. You just can't. And then there's sometimes when it's like, can I just lay here? You know, can you know, I don't want you to say nothing. I just want to lay here. But you're right. You have to be able to tell people, because especially with men, and then they feeling like, well, I'm just trying to, you know, trying to be there.
Let me ask you for that.
Let me tell you how I need you to be here. And it varies.
I love you, co-pastor.
It varies. Because today, this may be what I want. And then you come back tomorrow, and then it's like, you're going to try to do the same thing, but that's not what I need today.
Not where I am.
Right. It's not where I am. day. And so you're right, you have to verbalize and tell, people. And I think that it's important even on your job. I think it was probably harder for me to tell the people on my job. I feel like I'm like, you people don't care about nobody. I don't even want to go in here and tell them my business. But I got to the point where I had to, because I did not want them to have, because of my position, an expectation. And I just told them, I can't be all there right now. I got this going on. I know I can't call in every day, but they know. I went to them and I said, there's going to be some days that I'm not 100. It's not good for me to come in here. Y'all don't want me to come in here. I'm telling you.
But you know what, McKenna, I bet that was a relief for you to be able to say that.
Yes, because, and it wasn't that I had an issue telling them.
Right.
It's just that it's easier for me to talk to my family. I know they know me. I know they love me. But when it's somebody that you're not connected to, like it's just a random, like I work with them, but that relationship ain't there. To be that vulnerable with somebody, and I was like, I know I have to tell them. And then it's kind of like, okay, they're going to be looking at me like, is she going to come in here and blow the place up? And she, because people do, they go so far.
Don't push me.
Left. I'm just trying to tell you, listen, this is where I am. This is what I'm going through. And, some days this is how I feel. And if I come in because I know I just have to be here to do certain things, I'll be here, but don't be expecting all this engagement, because that ain't gonna happen. I'll be present because I have to be present sometimes, but sometimes they know. And my boss, he's the one that I have now. He's good, because I'll just text him and say, it ain't today. I'm not coming.
You know what, McKenna, I'm so glad you shared that. I can remember being on a job, grieving the loss of a relationship. And I remember going to my boss and saying, I am not okay.
Yep.
Because I was the rock in the organization. Like you just said, everybody's coming to you. And I said, I am not okay.
Not.
I don't even know if I need to be here today. I don't even know if I need to be here tomorrow. It's one of those things, because you liable to snap.
You got it.
So my boss is my supervisor at the nonprofit is a Quaker. He saved, but he's a Quaker, meaning he calls prayer holding. I'm holding you in the light, and that's what he was saying. And so I got to the place where I would say, Tim, I'm gonna need you to hold me in the light, because I'm not holding anything today. And I do it now. Now it's a running joke in the agency. I would say, guys, Tim will hold you in the light. Tim will hold you in the light. But I had to be the same way. And he would lovingly say, I'm so sorry you're feeling this, Terrace. I'm so sorry. I'm holding you in the light. But it helped all of us. So as I grew, he was able to grow too. And now that I'm in another place, he's jovial. Now he's like, happy to see you here, that kind of thing. But this has been awesome. I don't know if Pastor's going to do.
We didn't get a chance to ask nobody let anybody ask any questions.
Yeah.
Y'all got one. Pick one up real quick.
Yeah.
We got it.
Do it again and
get off.
But
I think it's been good for us on here, sharing our journey, hearing each other, hearing Crystal talk about the 5 stages, being able to navigate through those stages. But does anybody have any questions before we get off of here? I see there's been a couple of comments people are making, and thank you all for engaging with us and taking your Thursday evening with us. To our guests, thank you so much for doing this and for just sharing. I hope it helped somebody. It helped me, and I love hearing everybody's stories and just being able to, I don't know, just dialogue about it. And it's funny, they always say a relationship is not till you get with somebody else, and then you be like, oh, you deal with that too?
I really am not crazy.
Yeah, not all. Look at your baby.
Oh, honey, I'm not gonna show her because she's having a bad hair day. We're not gonna show her. Having a bad hair day. But I was gonna say, when you realize you've got someone that understands, you're like, I'm not that crazy, or I'm not the only one as crazy as something. I'm crazy by myself. But thank you for the opportunity.
Find your place, of peace, and a place where you can, be safe and cry, even if it's at your house or whatever it is. You don't need to be, you can't tell, like you said, tell everybody your business. You can't open up to everybody, but find that place where you can. And when letting go of control, Crystal, I hear you.
It's hard. It's hard. So
Yes.
if you catch me slipping, just you can get back at me. Look.
That was me. You know,
It's
honestly,
hard.
y'all, where I am right now, I told my sisters, I said, I am just in a place in my life where everything was so held together, so tight.
Yep.
And when my mom passed away, it's like everything broke. So I am
Yeah.
still trying my best. Like I got a book sitting right over there. I ain't finished editing. I've had to edit for 2 months. I ain't done it. I just, every time I pick it up, I'm like, and you know what? I'm being okay with being, but I'm just not ready yet.
And
I'm
that's
just
okay.
not ready.
But that's okay though.
I'm
Yeah.
not ready yet.
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
okay.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And it's like
No.
the Holy Spirit said, not yet.
No.
You ain't ready yet.
Mm-mm.
But you gotta. I think everybody has to be okay and okay with if that's where I am right now, if that's where McKinney is right now, if that's where Terry's is right now. Me and my sisters laugh because my daddy still signs everything. Love mom and dad.
Oh.
If he gives a card, if he gives something, but that's where he is right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's awesome.
He ain't let that go.
Yeah.
He still. My sister had me laugh. She said for her birthday, my daddy came up here, the picture of my mama,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, "Here's a gift from me and your mama."
Oh.
That's where he is.
But that
You know
made
what I'm
now that made that him doing that is helping him cope.
It is.
You know?
Yes.
So everybody, you know, coping looks different for everybody.
For everybody.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That
So
may
that's what
be
I'm
his
saying.
way of releasing.
Absolutely.
You know, by giving that picture away slowly.
Right. So that's what I was saying. Wherever we are, be okay with where you are.
Mhm.
That's how it's helping you cope. That's how
Absolutely.
it's helping you get through what you're getting through. It is how it's helping you keep your head up. So we can walk in the light, T. So we can walk
Yes. We walked in the light. We held in the light. The light
in the
of
light.
our
Thank y'all,
Christ.
ladies, so much. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Way over. I try to do this an hour. It's just too much. Encapsulate
It happens all the time.
all the time. Y'all have a good night. I don't know if y'all cook dinner, if y'all done what y'all need to do, but Rob, it ain't
too
happening in the Pillar house.
Won't be happening. Won't be happening.
No, not happening.
Thank you guys.
Y'all have
Thank
a
you
good
so much.
night. God
You
bless
too.
y'all.
God bless
All
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
Hey, stay on for just a second, ladies. Stay on for just a
Okay.
second.
Okay.